Hello. Hey, and I am so super excited to be here today. I have a special friend and a special guest that I have an opportunity to talk to, and we are going to just really dive deep into some of the things that he is currently doing, and I am so excited to be sharing this with you. I want to introduce you to my friend Dan Gomer. He is a teacher, and we honor teachers who has turned entrepreneur. And after leaving the middle school science classroom, Dan turned his sights to real estate as an investor, broker, and team leader. And after a decade in the real estate game, Dan has come full circle as he looks to leverage his life experiences and once again teach and inspire others through writing and speaking. His purpose is in life is driven by a passion to help others discover their own empowering vision for themselves as they create the life of their dreams. Dan lives in Highlands Ranch, Colorado with his wife and two kids. And Dan and I have known each other for a few years, so I'm so excited to have him here. And thank you so much for joining us. I know you live in Highlands Ranch, Colorado, but I think you're up skiing somewhere.
Yep, little copper action for the weekend. So way from home for the weekend, but love that I can get up here every once in a while. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate you asking me to be a part of this.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's that it's our opportunity for us to get out and share our message.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So besides being up skiing in Copper Mountain, what are you currently doing then? Tell me a little bit more about what you're currently doing with your work.
Yeah, how much time you got? It's that might fill up our whole time slot. Yeah, I mean, I'm still doing the real estate thing. And the cool thing about the real estate piece of what I do now, though, is that I get to work with a team. And so I now get to really spend a lot of time developing other people, not just as business owners, but as, like to do things the right way, to be good people and to develop their business and themselves in the right way, which is super fun and very fulfilling. And at the same time, my first book just came out, which is called I'm Full of It and So Are You. Let's change the world together. And, so that just came out a few months ago. And then I am also developing a course, a 6-part course and a webinar that goes along with that. That's all about taking action in our lives. Yeah, so there's never a dull moment. I got 2 kids and a wife and a dog and ski trips and all that stuff. So plenty of activities to go around.
Wow. Awesome. So what do you think has served you so well in building a team with your real estate?
I mean, real estate in general has just been such a fantastic tool to help me grow as a person. It's such a great opportunity to get to know people on a really personal level. You get to see people going through stressful situations and be with them during those times, and myself included. And it's just, there's so many opportunities to learn and grow when a person chooses to take those opportunities. And so it's just been a fantastic opportunity to help me grow as a businessman and an individual. And now that I get to work with a team, I get to, I look back on my career and I look back on how long it took me to develop the skills that I now have. And I just started thinking, man, if I could show other people how to do what I do and streamline that process for them, how cool would that be, and show people how to build a successful business and be a successful entrepreneur on many different levels, from the ground up. And just a whole nother level of rewarding. I mean, you had mentioned that I was a teacher before this. I was a middle school science teacher, and that was there was many things that I really liked about teaching, and I coached high school basketball and lots of things that I enjoyed about it. But then there were some things that just didn't fit my personality type. And so now I get to come back and teach on a level and in a way that's very specific to I guess, the art as I see it of teaching. And so it's a little less structured to how this is the way things are done. And I can tailor it to exactly what I think is the most efficient and effective way to do it. And it seems to be going really well. And it's very rewarding. And I continue to learn so much about myself as I work with other people and see how they grow and change and all that. So.
Yeah, you know, that's amazing when you can take and apply what you've learned and help others. You know, that
Yeah.
comes from a servant's heart and really giving somebody the advantage of our knowledge and experience. And so that's absolutely amazing. So sounds like you've done really well in real estate. So is that a career that you would suggest? I mean, what kind of person would real estate suit?
That's a great question. I've never been asked that before. You know, it's man, it's really, I think one of the best things about real estate is, if, like I said earlier, there's this huge opportunity to learn about yourself because you're just constantly interacting with people. So I think that the best realtors, number one, are givers. The best realtors that I know are givers. They're outward focused, they're relationship focused. They want to get to know people. They want to serve people. They want, you know, they are motivated intrinsically, right? Because there's nobody that's really going to push you. There's nobody at Your Castle Real Estate that is like, Dan, if you don't do this, you're fired. You know, so to be a good realtor, it has to be a person who is ready to take action, who's ready to take risk. I mean, there's so much risk, right? Being on your own. There's no guarantees on anything. So you have to be somebody that's willing to take on that risk, willing to take action, and somebody that's willing to put themselves out there and serve a community, serve people, serve your friends, serve your family, in a way that really puts them first. It seems to me that those are the most productive and happiest, right? There's people who don't have that mentality and they're successful, but the ones that are very successful and I think happy and are going to achieve longevity in it, those are some of the attributes that they hold.
Yeah, and I think those are so important. I haven't personally worked with Dan, but when I've worked with a realtor, I know that we've gotten to know each other very intimately on really what I want. And it's not just a house, but that it is a home where we live, we spend a lot of time, we grow our own community within our neighborhoods, and we raise our families there. So, it's like the biggest buying decision that we'll ever make. And whether it's one home or two or three, it's still a huge decision. And so to have somebody understand that and to serve my needs, I definitely know what that's like. It's so appreciated because
Yeah.
Maneuvering even the whole process is not
It's
something
stressful.
and I'm not equipped to do. So I need somebody else to take that on for me. So I'm really glad that
Well,
you are helping.
yeah, well, and I think that's one of the things that has been so, I guess, reflective maybe for myself is I get to see people in stressful situations all the time. So I know them on a personal level, and then I kind of get to know them on this, call it a business level or whatever. And it's like all of a sudden they've got to pack boxes, they've got to figure out loan stuff, they've got money going everywhere, they've got all these decisions that they have to make. It's this upheaval. It's just this huge upheaval in the middle of their life, and they still have to do everything else. And it's really interesting to be with people in that time and be able to help support them during that time, because it's challenging. It's really hard. I just moved a little over a year ago, and I've been in the business for a long time, and even then it was like, I'm so glad that I did this and I get to see what it feels like, because it's brutal.
Yeah. So I have a full level of respect for what's involved in that commitment. So
Yeah.
I just love the fact that you're taking your experience from teaching and transitioning that and using that as a investor, broker, and a team leader. And I think then you're also taking that experience into the book that you wrote. So let's talk a little bit more about the book and what inspired you, what led up to you writing your book.
You know, it's kind of funny because I never really, for most of my life, I never thought I was ever going to write a book, you know, and it was kind of in the back of my head, like, you know, like leading up to when I actually started writing it for a short period, it was like, I don't know, maybe someday I'll write one. And, you know, one day I was just downstairs doing my morning routine, which usually involves like yoga or, you know, something like that. And this idea just popped into my head. And I ran upstairs and started writing down kind of the topics that I wanted to talk about. And just this whole outline for the book was really drafted in like an hour. And then I just kind of expanded it from there. But you know, it was really up to that point, I had been writing like bits and pieces, just, you know, when something would strike me, I'd kind of write like a couple pages. And so I was able to take a lot of that and kind of repurpose it and put it back into the book. But you know, my passion has always been, how can I help make the world a better place? You know, I mean, that's why I became a teacher. That profession in and of itself didn't, you know, work for me specifically, just with my personality type and all of that. But I always have wanted to teach. I've always wanted to, I love watching other people grow and expand, you know, myself included. And I know how much value there is there. And so when this idea for the book came together and I had this outline, there was no question. It was, you know, I wasn't going to stop until it was done. And I set a goal, I'm going to have it done by this date. And then COVID hit and, you know, shaved a couple months off of that objective, you know, and was able to get it done a little bit faster. And, you know, and then at that point, I was able to kind of shift gears and figure out how I can start to, you know, really start focusing more on how I can get myself out there to spread a message that essentially, just like I said, tries to make the world a better place. And so that's what I'm working towards now, is how can I utilize the message in the book and other strategies to I don't know, like I said, just get out there and do what I can. Whether you agree with my message or not, you know, I'm trying. And I think at the end of the day, that's all that matters. So.
Yeah. Yeah. So making the world a better place, I think, is just a very huge task for all of us to be able to do, and starting it on that ground level. So what's your number one tip that you like to give, that you offer in helping someone to make the world a better place, that they could use today, that they could implement and finish listening to this and go, I like that, Dan Gomer. We're going to go ahead and use his tip today.
Yeah. So I don't know if it's exactly a tip, but you know, the book starts out with a story about this guy named John, and it's a story of this guy that just kind of goes, there's story A, he kind of goes through his day, something traumatic happens to him at the beginning of the day, and he goes out and has all these interactions with the world. And then there's, you know, the second story where he has the same traumatic event, but he brings a little bit of awareness to his actions, and he goes out and he influences the world in a completely different way. So when I say, you know, change the world, I don't mean it on this like big, grandiose, like, I actually wanted to call the book World Changers. And
you changed it to the title again? What's the title again?
I'm full of it, and so are you.
Okay.
And then I put in subtitles, you know, let's change the world together. But I wanted to call it World Changers because that's essentially what it's about. We don't have to be Steve Jobs to change the world. We change the world every single day through these little tiny interactions that we have. You know, when we get on a phone call with, if you've ever been on a phone call with like a call center, right? And there's somebody that is like a total jerk and they're really rude, and you get off that phone call, your energy is different. When you get off a phone call and somebody's super sweet and nice and like they knock things out, and it's like you feel a little energized. So that person in that call center has the ability to change the world just by the energy that they're putting out. So I guess my tip or my advice would just be to bring more awareness to how our little teeny tiny interactions are actually impacting the world. Because butterfly effect, the ripple effect, that whole thing, you never know how that smile to a stranger or the thank you to somebody who's feeling bad or whatever, you don't know how that's going to play out in the long run in the world. So if we're just aware of how we're showing up, aware of the energy that we want to put out, then we're changing the world. We're making the world a better place.
Yeah, and I think that's great to bring that awareness, but I think it's also one of those things that people don't understand how that, you know, that let's say that they drop their coffee as they're walking out the door to go to work, and
Right.
that they carry that anger, that frustration throughout the entire day, but they don't even know how to have that awareness. How do you help somebody to even kind of generate that awareness, and what, I mean, to me, that would be having that black cloud around you all day long. And how do you show somebody, it's like, think about this, you know, and how do you work with somebody to bring that awareness up to a level where they're aware? And it's like, if you don't know what you don't know.
Right, right. That's a pretty loaded question, you know, because it really is kind of dependent on the individual. You know, I mean, a big component of our society that I know is well known is just distractions, right? It's so easy to stick our head in our phone when we're sitting at the park. You know, it's so easy to, or sitting at the coffee shop, or it's so easy these days to get tied up in our own stories. We can actually distract ourselves with our own drama or the drama of politics or news, or I mean, we can distract ourselves with a billion different things. And so I think awareness is stems from a change of focus. It stems from making a commitment to not distracting ourselves, right? You know, I got a buddy that games a lot and he keeps saying, I'm going to game less. I'm going to game less. I'm going to game less. But then he never really does it. And really it's a distraction. And so if he can make a commitment that he's going to eliminate that distraction, he then frees up more energy that he can then utilize to focus on awareness. You know, it's really, there's a lot of different ways to do it, but I think it really starts with eliminating distractions and making that commitment that it's just, I'm going to be aware of how I'm showing up. Like, it's important to me to understand how and why I do the things that I do. So a big component of the book is our stories. You know, the more that we understand, like for me, here's a perfect example. In my, you know, post-college through probably late 20s, I was like the guy that was always yelling at referees in all of my games. Like, I was the guy that was getting thrown out and, like, you know, stupid, because I was completely unaware. And so then as I started like learning more about myself, and I started learning like, oh, I get mad at the referees because I see it as a personal attack on myself. Because when people used to call me out on things, you know, people used to call me out all the time. So anytime anybody calls me out on anything, it's a personal attack. So that referee is personally attacking me, and I would go off. So I couldn't bring that awareness to my life and start interacting with these referees differently until I understood who I was. So I think that's part of it too, is where do we come from? And that maybe that actually leads into more, how do we then eliminate distractions? Because if we know why we're distracting ourselves, then we can eliminate those. It's a bit of a web, but
Yeah, it definitely sounds like it. So it sounds to me like that you created and generated this awareness while you were still involved in playing some sports. Is that my understanding?
Yeah.
Okay, so draw me the scenario, the comparison in between before and after when you kind of when you raised this awareness. How did your interaction go with the refs? And did you find that you enjoyed your games more? Did you perform better, get less calls? Kind of tell me a little bit more on what you saw different, because I think that's part of it too, is like, oh, yay, we can make this all fancy and go, let's create the awareness, but what's it gonna get me?
Right. Right.
Yeah, you know what
Who
I mean?
cares?
Like, why do I want to create that awareness? And
Right.
that's, you know, we're sharing that today, but, you know, if I were somebody watching this and go, yeah, that's great, but what's it going to get me? So, you know, take it into maybe like talking about the sports, talking about your job. How does that awareness change your performance?
Yeah, absolutely. So the from a performance standpoint, it definitely impacted my performance because I was less focused on how everybody else was wronging me, and I was more focused on my game.
Nice.
That's the first piece. The other piece is the referees that used to hate me and love, ringing me up, right? They became my friends, and like I could joke around with them. And so now when they legitimately make a bad call, because I'm not taking it personally, I can jab at them, right? And make a joke and interact with them, right? And so at the end of the day, they go home and they're not all angry. I go home and I'm not all angry. So I absolutely enjoy the game way more. It's no longer my success in basketball, or, it's no longer ego. It was, now I'm out there playing a game. I'm hanging with my friends. I'm getting some exercise. It freed me from this self-created prison that I had put myself in, that I have to react, like this happens and I react this way, and this happens and I react this way, and there's no choice. So by creating this awareness, I was able to choose how I wanted to show up in the world. And so once, let's take it outside of the basketball court. I mean, yes, my game improved. Yes, I enjoy the game more, but that's just basketball, whatever. You want to apply that to a business. I mean, my business has grown by 400% in the last 5 years, and that is in a direct correlation with a mental shift in my life. That is with me saying, I'm not going to do things this way anymore because it's no longer serving me. I'm going to start consciously directing my attention, and I have to consciously shift my attention. I have to consciously catch myself in these little cycles, like yelling at referees. There's lots of these little things in my life, right? I have to catch myself in those. So this awareness about who I am allows me to catch myself more and more and more. And all of a sudden, my relationships are stronger. My business is stronger. I enjoy basketball more. I'm smiling more. I don't get angry and flip out over stupid stuff. And if I do, most of the time I'm doing it consciously just to release energy, and then I'm coming right back. So the impact that it has, this awareness has within any of our lives, it's impossible for me to say what it's going to look like for each individual. All I know is myself and a lot of other people that I know that have started doing this work, the shifts in their life that comes from building this awareness within themselves and choosing how they're showing up in the world. It's amazing.
Yeah, wow, wow. And that's kind of that ripple effect, but seeing that, and instead of just describing as the ripple effect, and seeing that. So I want to ask you then, is this is a good transition and segue. So sticking together as a community and making the world a better place. So, we talked about that a little bit before. So tell me what your thoughts are on and how we bring that together and really make a bigger impact.
So you mean, like, can you rephrase the question? I'm not sure if I understand.
Yeah, absolutely. So we talked about, that you wanted to make the world a better place, and that we're able to impact our community, and how you're bringing people together and really inspiring them to change things and make it better.
Yeah. So how can people like go out into their own communities and try and make it better?
Yeah, and even create their own community of those who are making things better.
Yeah.
Because I think
Yeah.
that's one of the things that you're doing is you're creating that community by teaching your realtors and your team. And then as we'll get into talking a little bit more about your book and your program, but that you're bringing people together to have this impact. So what
Yeah.
kind of community are you developing with that?
Well, I think it starts with baby steps. I think one of the biggest things that stops a lot of people from taking action in their lives is they look at the whole elephant. We've all heard that, right? How do you eat an elephant one bite at a time? I think that it starts with baby steps. If someone wants to go out and impact their community in a positive way, I think it starts with just changing how they're showing up and seeing how it's impacted their life. And before we even got on this call to start recording it, we were talking a little bit about just the community of, call it personal development for lack of a better term, just a very broad term. um, you know I don't see anybody in this realm as my competition. I see them all as brothers and sisters who are trying to do their part to make the world a better place. So if I'm somebody that's just starting down this path, and I'm like, you know what, I'm just going to be nice to the barista when I go get coffee, and it starts there, and then they learn something, and then they do something else, and then they learn something else, and they are consciously kind of going down this path. Well, then they might get inspired to go out and start talking to other people about how this has impacted their life. And they're going to do it in a completely different way than I do it. And in the way that you do it, you're going to reach a specific community. I'm going to reach a specific community. The way I see it is, if everybody on the face of the planet was just trying to be the best version of themselves, period, like, can you imagine how awesome the world would be?
Yeah.
And so I think it's less about like, how do individuals go out and change other people's thoughts or change other people's actions. It's more about, how can I change my actions? How can I change myself? And then exemplify how great these changes have been in my life and what they have created for me in my life, so that other people can go, that's pretty amazing. And it inspires them to go out and make those changes themselves. Does
Yeah.
that does that make
Yeah.
sense?
Yeah, absolutely. And I like that of being the best version of yourself. That's actually part of my mission statement, because when I can come off as being the best version of myself, then what that does to others is just absolutely amazing. So yeah, I totally, totally am with you on that for sure.
Yeah.
Yes. So Dan, thanks. This has been some awesome information. So you mentioned that you have a program that you've got going on, and even some additional educational opportunities that you have coming up. Tell me a little bit more about the big piece of those. I know you don't have any specified dates and stuff, but we have an opportunity. We have something that you could give our listeners. So tell me a little bit about your program, and then we'll talk about what you can give to our listeners.
Okay, cool. And since I don't have a date set yet for this class, it'll be end of February, early March, something like that. And then I'll continue to do other programs. But if anybody wants to find out more information about me or kind of track what's going on, they can always go to dangomer.com or my Daniel Gomer speaker and author Facebook page. Everything will be on there as well. So as updates come up for new things, it'll be on there. So I'm sorry, did you want me to talk a little bit about the course and what it's
Talk a little bit about the course, okay.
Okay.
Not the nuts and bolts, but kind of that 10,000 foot overview, because one of the things that we talked about as well was taking action. And this is one of the basic tenets of what your program is about. So just kind of give us the 10,000 foot overview in what somebody who took your course, what you expect and hope that they're going to come out with after taking it.
Right. Yeah. So the whole objective of the course is to, I've always said that, or not always, but since I've kind of gotten down this path, I've said that I want to be an action speaker, not a motivational speaker. I want to be somebody that comes out and expects that the people that are there are going to take action, And so this course is really like, I went out and I talked with a bunch of CEOs, like, you know, big companies. I talked with business owners. I talked with team leaders to try and get an idea of like what stops people from taking action in their lives. And so I kind of took that framework and used that to help me design a program that is designed to get somebody who's like, I want to change. I know that I should, you know, do this thing, but gosh, I just can't seem to ever get it done, you know, to that person that knows that there's something that they want to change, and not that there's anything wrong with them because they want to change. We all have stuff we can change, but they know, they recognize that I could do it better, and they're ready to start looking at that. And so this course is designed to take somebody like that, get them to take action, and then put there's an actual plan. Like I looked back over these, you know, last 5 years when I really started making these shifts, and I was like, what did I actually do? And I found that there was this cycle that I just continuously followed, not really knowing what I was doing. And then I recognized what the cycle was, and now I'm still like consciously following that cycle. And so that's kind of what we go over in the course is how do we take action, how to go through that cycle so that, you know, what I would like to see when people come out of this course is the only feedback I want to hear was, I took action. I did something, you know, I took that first step. It doesn't have to be that I ate the whole elephant. It just has to be, I took that first bite and I was excited about it, and I created some change, and we're going to see where this snowball goes next. That's really what it's intended to do.
Oh, wow. Wow. And I like that because so many of us just get stuck, and a lot of times it's fear that keeps us from moving on. So yeah,
Right.
to have somebody who can really help facilitate taking that first step, which is really nice. So that's amazing. That's
Absolutely.
amazing. So thanks for sharing. So Dan,
Yeah.
you mentioned that you would have a free gift for our listeners. So you want to talk about that?
Yeah. So anybody that watches this interview, if you just shoot me an email. Hey Dan, saw your interview with Peggy. Send me a copy of my book. Here's my address. Then I'll send you a free copy of my book. I got a bunch of them sitting on my shelf. So shoot me an email at danielgomer1@gmail.com, and I'll send you a free copy.
Wow, wow, that's amazing. So let's go ahead and we'll just spell that out as well. So it's Daniel Gomer and the number 1. So it's DANIEL and GOMER, the number 1 at gmail.com. So this is for a free copy of your book, and that you'll go ahead and get that sent out to them. So that's absolutely amazing. That's very generous of you. I would also encourage you, if you're interested in learning more about his webinars, we don't have any specific updates on those when they will be, but I think that they're going to be a free webinar, and Dan is so vested in educating and teaching. He's taken that from the classroom to his real estate, and now into being an author and speaking and talking about taking action. So if you want to receive additional information, you can email him and say, hey, put me on that list for the webinar.
Yeah. Well, and also, just so you know, the one that'll be coming up in late February, early March, I'm doing for free. The webinar is free, but then also the 6-week course after the webinar is free.
Wow.
Because I just want to get as many people involved as possible. I want to get feedback. I want to see what's working, what's not working. I want to see results for other people. And so, yeah, I haven't had that date set, but like I said, check out my Facebook page, check out my website, email me, and I'll make sure that you get more info on that as that develops.
Well, that's absolutely amazing. So I'll make sure that when we get this, I'll have all the contact information in the description when this gets uploaded into YouTube, and you will have access to that. But Dan, this has been amazing, and I so appreciate you taking time out of your ski trip. Looks like your family's been very, very patient if you've taken time from your evening to spend it with me and our audience tonight. But I really love the fact that you have taken this whole passion and are helping others and making the world a better place. I love it. So
Well,
I
thank you,
fully
Peggy.
appreciate it.
Hey, you too. I mean, out there, doing everything you can to, in your own way, make the world a better place. And you took action. You're doing your part. And so, thank you as well. And thank you for having me on here. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely, Dan. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.